It's so funny. Everyone's been like, oh my God, I'm so excited to see your dress. I'm like, so am I. I hope it's going to turn out good. I'm in the same boat as you of not knowing how it's going to turn out. It's officially day one of making my actual wedding dress. Now before this, there was a part one where I made my mock wedding dress out of some unused material laying around the studio. I've used a pattern and I've written my literal notes about what I want to change about it, and now I can go ahead and make it out of my actual material. Today is just going to be a big cutting day. I've got to cut out all the panels in the main material as well as the lining. So let's get into that and I'll explain what I learned from my mock-up and what I'm going to be changing. Okay, so what I'm working with is this Vogue pattern. The code is V1032 in case you happen to be inspired. All my material ended up being sourced from the Remnant Warehouse, which is an Australian fabric supplier who specializes in dead stock and unused materials, sometimes even from designer labels, so that's really cool. So that's why I was really drawn to looking through their options, although this means that stock quantities can be varying, and I actually ended up buying all the lace that they had left in this particular rose pattern as there wasn't much available. It's a 4-way stretch, which I probably wouldn't ideally opt for, but I prioritize finding the dream pattern to line up with my vision because that to me has more of an impact than the actual form of the fabric. I definitely think it would flow a lot nicer not being stretched, but I couldn't find a pattern style that I liked in non-stretch, so here we are. The lining was also from the Remnant Warehouse and was called a drapey crepe suiting fabric, and from memory it was also made using recycled fibers. Thoroughly enjoyed that detail. I didn't want it to be sheer, but I also didn't want it to be too thick, so this stood out to me as the best option to keep with the flowy vibe. Both are slightly an off-white ivory tone, which was also a big personal preference. If you're intrigued about the cost, I definitely ended up over ordering because I was scared I wouldn't have enough in case something went wrong. So all up my order was $260 on fabric and thread, and I easily only used half of each. So technically my wedding dress fabrics probably only cost me around $180, which for that amount plus my time for a custom wedding dress, I'm pretty happy with. Now for the game plan of cutting into this beautiful fabric and implementing all the changes I noted down from the practice dress. I laid down the pattern on my outer lace material, cut around all that with the noted variations of sizing. That included adding seam allowance in some areas, maybe cutting down the size of some things in other areas. In particular, it felt a bit tight around my hips but quite loose around my waist, so I just made sure to add a bit in some other areas, and if anything I just remembered that it is better to have more than what I need than less, as I can take it in. I'm also not impressed with the construction process that they recommended. It noted down how I'm going to construct this differently. Essentially, I want one of the final lines to be the side seams so that I can adjust it to fit my size. I'm actually yet to cut out the sleeves. I feel like I'm going to get through this process, pretty much construct most of the dress, if not all of it, and then I'm going to base the size of the sleeves on how large the armholes end up being. And then I used those external lace panels to then cut out the matching lining pieces so that they're all equal in size. Although I have noted that I'm probably going to decrease the size of the bottom half of the lining just because I don't think it needs to flow out as much, and it will allow the lace to be the hero, and also probably reduce the length of it. I'll make all those changes kind of when I am at the fitting stage, just because worst comes to worst, cut them so they're all the same if need be, and then I can start taking away areas that I feel like it makes sense. I'm a very do one step, trial it, amend if need be. It is officially assembling day. I feel like we don't talk about it enough, but you really need to put aside so much time for cutting pieces out. I also was scattering this between doing other jobs, but I've literally spent I reckon 3 days trying to cut this out. And also there are a lot of pieces, but I'm very happy to be done with that, and I'm now on the machine, which is where I feel like it all starts to come together and become real. Okay, I'm gonna do a few test sews on these offcuts, make sure that I get the tension and everything is right and it's not gonna just eat up the material. That would be terrifying. And then once I get that, we'll probably start assembling. I was talking to a friend the other day and I labeled myself as a mediocre maker. I don't know, maybe that is dumbing down what I do, seeming as I do share tutorials, but if you have followed my stuff before, I feel like I kind of sit in the middle. I am not someone who has studied fashion or is at the couture level and does the incredible finishing off details, but I'm also not at beginner sewing level either, where I guess I started off. I'm in this little middle area where I'm still relating to here, aspiring to be here, also just approaching things in a way that makes sense to me. If I try and make things too serious or over perfect something, I'm gonna ruin the process and not enjoy it. There's many different journeys to get to the same destination. And I think that's something that people sometimes get offended with my stuff. They're like, why have to do it that way? I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, it probably did take double as long, but it made sense to me. And there probably are better finishes. Always happy to take on feedback and evolve and learn. So yeah, don't be offended if I'm doing things that could be done better. I'm no professional, even though this is my profession and my job, sharing sewing. But that's my niche. I'm not a professional and I'm sharing it. Let's make my wedding dress. First challenge is figuring out what is different. So in the original one, you join front and the back together at the top shoulder and the side seam. Like I mentioned earlier, I want to leave the side seam open once all the panels are joined together, and then I can close it off together and make seamless adjustments. So I think I'm going to focus on the front panels. The only thing is, the original pattern uses lining to clean up this edge. I don't want lining because I want the lace to just be doing its see-through magic, and you get to see the details that way. So what I've got is this lace trim, which I'm thinking could be a nice way to finish that center area, because otherwise the alternative is doing a double rolled hem, which isn't the worst thing. It's just going to be one clean line, but I just don't think that that's the most incredible finishing detail on a wedding dress. You know, we could think outside the box. If it doesn't work or I don't like it, I'm just going to recut this panel and do the double rolled hem. Amazing. This edge is beautiful and scalloped and has these floral details. Normally the other edge is quite straight, whereas if I trim around the flowers and add it on, I feel like it kind of blends in more and it just looks like that's the natural edge of the material. Yeah, that's the vibe. Okay, so I'm gonna cut out those edges around the flowers on the lace trim and then figure out how I'm gonna add it onto here. With this lace, the flower edges have a continued line that kind of ends up being a bit of a safe zone that I can cut it up to so it won't unravel after that. The reason why I trimmed off that excess amount on the main panel is because this pattern had allowed for seam allowance. As I'm not doing a rolled hem or a seam there, I kind of want the piece to be finishing where I want it to end up being. I'm going to do the outside edge first. What I did with this is I aligned it kind of just a little overhang at the top and maximum overhang at the bottom. And like I said earlier, having that bit of extra length actually really helped me when I went to attach the bralette section. Curve a stitchy right around there. Classic sewing sesh. The lighting has definitely gone a bit not great in the afternoon and the clouds rolling over, but we truly have to persevere, so I'm sorry. Oh, that's really fun. So take two. Already stressed girl, absolutely just loves that. I previously did a test swatch to see how to best attach this layer. So what you can't see in this terrible lighting is that I'm hiding this sewing line in the thick edge of the lace trim and mimicking the scalloped shape. Then once it's attached, I can trim back any of the underlayer lace so it's all tucked underneath and not showing past the outer edges. Probably good adding this in here as well because lace material has a little bit of stretch to it and the trim doesn't have stretch to it, which is the same scenario as the lining and then the outer lace again. By adding non-stretch material onto it, it'll probably like help form it a little bit. That is one thing that I loved about that material, even though it was like quite stiff and it was frayy, flimsy. It wasn't stretchy and I think that gives it more form. That's one thing I'm worried about, all the weight on stretchy material. Like, is it gonna drag down at certain points? I'm just scared that like you're really gonna notice the second sewing line, especially because of the difference of stretch. Okay, this is gonna sound so rogue, but I might do one final sewing line there and then I'm gonna rely on the top sewing line and this edge that's gonna come in to hold it in place. And then I am getting some fabric glue. Worst comes to worst, I could fabric glue the rest down. Like at least I know it's actually joined and it's not gonna come off with the sewing line, but it's more just keeping this second, like the outer edge from flapping. I'm committing to it. Okay, I'm gonna sew this bottom corner kind of down, only because I'm gonna be adding the bralette edge on there and I don't want it to accidentally like fold back and get sewn the wrong way. So I'm just gonna do a bit of like is it a basting stitch? So it's kind of holding it in place and if need be, if it's showing, I can like unpick it. Yeah, that kind of confirmed it's doing what I thought it would. The bottom material is trying to stretch and then the top one's like not letting it, so it creates a bit of like a pillowing effect. Oh my god, it looks so cute. It's giving grandma core and that's what I'm all about. I've just switched the machine to a zigzag stitch and I'm going to go around all the edges of the bralette to kind of fuse them together so that they don't shift around when we go to do the next step, and also just clean up the edges as well. Essentially what you want to do is have them good side facing, but when they're good sides facing, it's not where it needs to be. I need that to be good sides facing over there. Then pretty much flip it all around and good sides facing there. So what the suggestion is cutting a small line up there so it helps these to be able to fold back. I haven't got the cut in there yet, but it would be there. And naturally you'd want to put the point matching the point, but you kind of need to offset that by the seam allowance. So if I'm going to be sewing at about 1 centimeter seam allowance, I'll move the turning point of that down 1 centimeter. We'll end up sewing 1 centimeter, 1 centimeter up to that cutting line. Then that allows you to kind of pivot all the material out of the way, put this side down, and also not have this like bunched up effect with that cut kind of helping ease it. Oh, does that make sense? Just ignore that that's getting larger off the edge. That's just personal to what I need to do because of that extra trim. So that little cut is there. It goes into the 1 centimeter point, which is going to be the turning point. When I sew it, I'm going to fold this back so that all I'm focusing on is that line. I can pretty much sew as close as I can to that, the bottom of the V or the cut. Definitely make sure to avoid sewing over that because that will just ruin everything. And then when it comes to sewing this side, then I would then twist everything, line that up to the edge, and then just folding everything away, making sure it's nice and flat and there's nothing bunching up there, and sewing down that side. Let's see how this looks. Okay, I'm happy with how it's looking crispy. So now I'll just continue down the line. Got there in the end. Okay, this looks terrible compared to what it's meant to look like. So we'll end up trimming the top of this little corner area. So when I go to fold these in, they end up sitting on top of each other. Continue the fold the whole way down. I can do a stitch there and there on the machine, and then I just would hand stitch these edges to this lining. Same with hand stitching this little corner and the layers there. And then I'll do an iron, and from the front, let me show you what I prepared earlier. So that's what it looks like fresh out of the machine without the cut up the top and without those edges tucked underneath. And this is where we end up. Also with the darts added in. Okay, let me cut, fold, sew, and then sew darts. It's genuinely only like 4 o'clock. It looks like it's like 8 p.m. I've had to put all the lights on, and outside it's so dark and gloomy. This is what crafting in winter looks like. I also try and avoid putting the lights on most of the time because when it gets dark and I put them on, I just become a fish tank to outside. So that's fun. So everyone walking past can just see me at nighttime sewing. Okay, that's done. I'll do folds down the bottom, make sure to switch it back to a regular stitch. At least kind of just doing this fold down the bottom with a sturdy regular sewing machine stitch, it just kind of like helps get it going. So then when I do the hand stitches, it's just more like light holding in place. The fact that we're moments away from finishing this first piece, which then just gets everything flowing. I'm so excited. I know, I really got to gaslight myself into believing that I love hand sewing. It's so much fun because there's like 16 buttons to add on the end. Look, I'm going real long so we can just do it all in one go. Catch me not having to rethread this like 3 times. What's the game plan after this? So, okay, I'm gonna hem the center back top area, prepare the waistline back area as well. I'll also add the waistband onto the front, and then I'll have the front and back tops ready to go. And then when I do the big flowy skirt sections, then I just need to add them onto the top. I love how I'm always just like, yeah, I'll just do this, and it takes me like another 3 days. Essentially what I'm doing is like putting this through the seam allowance and then just trying to almost grab like one thread of the lining, because I've found if I actually go straight through the lining, it does kind of show on the front. Don't ask me how, because it's white thread. Because it is such delicate material, it's like the hole that the pin leaves is showing. Hello friends, it is officially a fresh day, which means we are also one day closer to needing this dress done. Life has been non-stop. The afternoon sewing turned into a full-blown night session, and I actually got through a good chunk. So I finished the front top and I added the waistband area to that. Got the lace trim, did all the scary details around the bralette area. I prepped a few panels, and then I had to run off and do like 10-hour day of appointments. That's why I'm looking I mean, hopefully I'm looking fresher than I was in the clip previously. We've got the hair done, we've got the nails done, we've got the eyes done. The eyebrows are probably looking insane, but they're gonna mellow out. It's fine. I've got like 3 videos I'm filming at the moment. There's like a little vlog of my week leading up to the wedding as well as making the dress. They're in separate videos. If you enjoy chaos and following along a week of just running errands and ticking off to-do lists, then I'll link that video below. Okay, anyway, today is crunch day. I'm probably gonna do another night session. Lighting's probably gonna get shit, so I'm gonna try and squeeze as much as I can in the good lighting so you can see what I actually do. And to start off today, I'm gonna start a very simple task so it feels achievable, and that is just doing a double rolled hem at the center back of the top section. I could, like I did with the center front, add that lace trim, but I'm actually feeling like I really want this to be nice and clean. If I was going all out, I'd probably continue that lace trim around the back neckline. I'm gonna have my hair down, I'm gonna have a veil over the back. We are not seeing those back details, therefore I am saving my time and not putting the lace detail across there. Only you and I know about that, okay? It totally goes the whole way around. So yeah, let's do that. Double rolled hem, start the day, and then we are gonna smash out the bottom half of this dress. That is the bit that does flow and is quite straightforward, famous last words. So let's do it. Let's turn on this machine. I'm up to joining the big bottom pieces. So for the front, there's like a center front and then 2 side panels. I'll essentially grab the center piece, grab one side piece, lay them good sides facing, match up that seam, unfold that so all the good sides are facing out, and then repeat that on the other side. So this is the front center. This is one of the side panels. So if that's matching that way, I'll then flip it and lay good sides. And what worked for me on the sample is matching it from the top, because that is the priority. Grabbing my little clips and then just spacing it out evenly down. I did cut it a little bit longer than need be, I believe. So worst comes to worst, if there's like a little bit off at the bottoms and they're not perfectly matching, I can just trim that off. I'll then sew entirely down that edge and then repeat this on the other side panel, joining it to the center front. So I joined the front lace pieces, that's the good sides facing you. And then I joined the lining front pieces. So in the pattern, I think it recommends individually adding the lining and the external pieces at each panel. Stitched it so they become essentially one piece. Whereas I really love the idea that when I wear this, the lace can kind of flow off separately. One word that I really wanted to aim for was like whimsical. And I feel like if the lace can kind of flow off on its own, the light is just gonna shine through it and just like give off a whimsical little boho-y, lacy goddess. So in my mind, if I joined the lining and the lace panels separately and essentially just bonded them at the top, then they could flow off separately. And I'm actually happy with how that has come together. I can't get too excited, but I'm so obsessed. In the wee hours of my nighttime sewing, I don't think I showed you this, but I prepped the front waistbands and the back waistbands, just what I was explaining before, by just joining the lace and the lining material and pretty much forming it as one panel by doing zigzag stitches around the edges. It'll help clean it up for the next step, as well as just essentially make it into one panel. I ended up adding the front waist panels to the top already. I think I got a bit excited and did that. I think in theory, I probably should have added the waist front bands to this first, and I'm going to do that to the back side as well. So then this becomes one panel and I add it onto the top. I just think that's going to be a bit more of a straightforward process. Whereas now there's maybe a little area that could be a bit difficult when I go to add this onto the top of the front with the waistband already added on there. We'll get to that hurdle, we'll try it as is. If not, I can unpick it and then join it onto here first. But like, will I just get to the same point and same problem? Probably. Now for the back side, I've got to keep it separate to begin, just because there's going to be a zipper down the middle and then I need to figure out how to attach the bottom half. That's going to be so long, the big train. I didn't have enough fabric on my mock-up one, which if you watch that video you would know. So I haven't even seen the full length of the train. The good thing is I don't need an extra long train, so whatever it is, I'm sure I'll be stoked with it. And if need be, I can trim it back if it is too long. Just like a nice medium in between. Okay, so for this, there's 2 center pieces and 2 side pieces. Let's grab one of the center pieces. this bad boy goes with this piece. And I'll join the lace first, and then I'll join the lining. So I'm going to do, let's say, center left and then back left, and then center right and back right. I'll repeat that for the lining, and then we're going to figure out how to insert the zip and finish off the very center seam. Let's go to the table. The panels are so large they don't even fit on this table. That's why I was cutting on the ground for this, because there's no way I'd be able to roll out the fabric and cut out all the panels on the table. So unfortunately, that's why all my beautiful white fabric was on the ground if you got a bit triggered by that. That's the center back. This is one of the side backs, so that kind of curves in there, that curves around there and meets. I guess it kind of looks bunched up, but then it will all like flow that way. That's the good sides all facing up. I'll lay it now so the good sides are facing each other. Clips have actually been so handy throughout this project. I don't think pins would have done the same, just being like a kind of meshy lace, just to guide me for this first bit. And then I'm kind of just, like I mentioned earlier, free flowing for the rest of it. I didn't need to do a wedge shred pre-workout plan leading up. All I had to do was just sew. Actually, that would have been a funny compilation of scenes. Cutting is literally Pilates because I'm like stretched out. There's that pose, opposite arm and leg up. That's like me, but like cutting fabric. So that's my Pilates. And then me lifting up the sewing machine is my weights. I'm doing squats as well every time I go over there, squat down with great posture to pick up my fabric, my step count. I don't have like an Aura ring or a watch, or I don't have my phone on me to like count my steps. So I'd be very intrigued to see what I actually do on hectic sewing weeks. I'm not walking far, but I am doing lots of circles, and also the mental workout. It's crazy, but I'm actually loving the process. I'm having the time of my life, I'm not gonna lie. You know, I've gone and tried a few dresses on, and I've like taken notes. I've taken all that inspiration and I'm putting it into this final piece. And I guess like hoping it matches the vision that I have in my mind. Okay, sewing. I'm also, as I'm going through, I'm not pulling it so it's stretching, but I am giving it just a bit of firmness, as the weight of the dress is probably going to give it a bit of a stretch. That way, if I have it firm, it'll ease up when it's sitting naturally, and then the thread is used to being at a point where it is stretched out. Here, so you can see the in-between phase where we're at. This is going to be this side back panel and that center back panel. Now I'll repeat that for the other side, and then I'll do that for the lining. Not gonna lie, I'm probably not gonna film these next things. I just wanna smash through it, get it done. It's essentially all the same stuff, so maybe we can have some like elevator music and like cute cinematic scenes. I'm wasting more time now than I should just be actually sewing. Good sides facing up, good sides facing up, good sides facing each other, and then we go on the sewing machine. I thought it'd be fun to film from that far away so you can just get a little intel into what's going on behind filming. So many different projects going on. Plinths have come together. Tomorrow is like the big, Darcy has the day off, so it's gonna be so good just being able to smash out a heap of like final running around, picking up things, and packing everything ready to go. I'm not gonna have time to sew. I need to get this done today. No pressure. And then we're gonna come here tomorrow, pick up the dress, the flowers, the Yui boombox music thing, the plinths, and whatever else. I've got a list somewhere. I literally just thought about the bobbin. That's one of the best things about this machine, is that you can see through to the bobbin so you can check when it's about to run out. I reckon we should be able to get through this, but I've then definitely got to refill it. That goes with that. This goes with that. Okay. I'm officially up to adding the zipper into the back panel. Like what I said earlier, I love that the lace and the lining are separate, at least at the bottom half, so they can flow away from each other. So for this, I'm thinking let's add the zipper to the lining and the lace at the same time. It's just gonna help protect it and make it look nice. I'm gonna zigzag stitch across the top, joining the lace and the lining together, and then zigzag down to essentially where the zipper stops. Maybe I'll put a little peg in there. So zigzag, zigzag, and leave that open. And then I can come to figuring out what to do there, because naturally it's going to be then folded under, and I'll just kind of hopefully separate it and then continue the lace seam from there separately, and then the lining seam from there separately. In my mind, that's how it's going to work. Why would it not work out? That was my mantra for this year. It was, what's the best that could happen? And that's exactly what we're going to think right now and manifest. What is the best that could happen? It just flows and all works out. Let's go to the table and you can get a little close up. Also, you're not going to bloody believe it. As soon as I went into my power sewing session before, I totally forgot our whole conversation about the bobbin needing to be rethread. Got halfway down the back and it ran out. So let's go clip. Always start from the point that you want it to look best and where you want it to line up, and then work away from there. I want there to be a little bit of seam allowance at the top when we add that on. So where the zipper ends, once I've shifted the top area where it stops down by about 1 centimeter, and then clip, zigzag, zigzag, and then add zip into this side, and then I'll repeat for the other side. Little hack, if your machine is just not sewing how you want it to, I feel like the equivalent to sewing's turn it on and off again is just rethread it. Maybe something's just getting caught in a way that it's not meant to, and sometimes it's just a little refresh that just helps. Once again, this could have alternatively been overlocked, but now 2 pieces have essentially become one, just like what's going to happen in the ceremony of Darcy and I becoming one family. This dress is a representation of our love. Okay, we'll unzip it. We want it to end up looking like that, then flip it so it's good sides facing. Figure out where the end point is, but it's very, very hard to spot because it's very see-through. So that's meeting the top, and we'll shift that down by about 1 centimeter. Let's clip that in place. Because it's an invisible zipper, that's the zip just like sitting flat, and the sewing line wants to be like in this crease when you fold back the zip teeth. But you don't want it to be too close, otherwise it won't close. But you don't want it to be too far away, otherwise it won't do the whole invisible zipper thing. So it's gonna be this perfect little in-between. Good thing about this machine is I can play where the needle sits. I feel like I'm very close. I don't know if that's too close. Okay, it is deluxe combo deal right now. You need to combine these 2 sides. Off camera, I just pre-did the zigzag stitch across the top and down to in line where the zip should stop. Technically, we're like laying down the whole panels good sides facing. There's just a little zip in between them. And here we are once again at a nighttime sewing session, terrible lighting. It's actually okay for me in real life, just not great for you guys and the filming scenario. So you know how I added the zip on, I actually needed to add the waistband on before that. While the batteries were recharging once again, I unpicked the zipper, added the waistband in, and then just added the zipper in the same way, but just obviously shifted up a little bit more. And now I am up to the point of just continuing the sewing line of the center back seam allowance. Holy dooly. Truly a labor of love at this moment. Just getting to the point where I'm very excited for it to be over. These are massive sewing lines down the back, but she is looking bloody gorgeous, I'll tell you that. I'm gonna make sure I'm not accidentally getting things caught where I don't want them to be. Trying to be like efficient but not rushing, if that makes sense. Guys, we are truly at the pointy end. Okay, like I said, you're not going to see much detail up close in this lighting, so I haven't really been filming the next steps, but I attached the top back lace panels to the bottom back lace and lining panels, and then I added the top to the bottom of the front. So now I have the front and the back all complete. And I'm just gonna sew completely down the side seams and across the shoulder seams. I think I'm gonna come back in the morning, do a final try on, and then I've actually gotta add the sleeves on. Yeah, okay. Let's do it. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Okay, do you want to see what we got done at the nighttime sesh? Oh my god. We have a wedding dress. Now, if I was just following the pattern, it would pretty much be done. But we're adding sleeves on. So let's do that this morning. You know, I haven't even tried it on, so let's throw it on quickly. And it was at this point I realized that the dress was probably a size too big for me. And I didn't have the energy to keep talking to camera and would rely on future Maddy to explain what happened. So hello, that is me. Essentially, it turns out I didn't need to add the extra width, which I noted down from my test dress. In hindsight, I assume that's because of the stretch in this material. So I figured out how much needed to be taken in on the side seams, which thank God I switched up the steps so this could be the last one and easily make adjustments to the fit. Knowing that the sample dress material was very different to the final dress, I was almost certain something like this would happen, so I'm glad I made space for adjustments to be made. And then it was time for the final touch of the sleeves. Once I was happy with the fit, I then cut out the sleeves to the size of the armholes and attached them on. Apologies, because I know that's the least technical explanation ever, but I also didn't film much of this part as I was at the point where I just needed to get it done. I wanted the length of the sleeves to be exaggerated and reach beyond my wrist and up towards my fingers, so I made sure to over measure this part and also allow for the end of the sleeves to slightly span out. And now for the fun part. Here is how my custom self-made wedding dress turned out. Okay, let's try and lay this out with a little trainy train. This, my friends, is officially my wedding dress. I would do a 12 for you, but I can't right now. Only thing that needs to happen now is add the buttons. I'm thinking of just adding some aesthetic ones, maybe to the back center, under the sleeves, and then I actually need a functional one at the back of the neck. So looks like everyone's helping me sew a button on when we're over in Stratty, and then I just need to trim up the bottoms. I'm actually just leaving the ends of the lace just cut and raw, and then cut the lining shorter than the lace. That way the lace can have its moment. See, at the moment I feel like the lining hangs out way further, so we need the lace to do that instead. I feel like crying. I'm like not sure if it's happy emotions, sad emotions, like overwhelmed. Everything has just finally come to this point. Holy shit. Hope you enjoyed following along the chaos. I wonder if you thought when you were clicking through you were going to see like this beautiful, calm, calculated bride-to-be who's so organized, and you definitely didn't get that. I'm so sorry. Anyway, let's get this girl married. Insert aesthetic clips of the day.